Everyone. Welcome back to episode number 77 of Speed Tips by Bob and Chad. Hope everybody's doing good. The weather here in Iowa is gorgeous today. We had 75 degrees. This weekend we had 70-degree weather. Got to go racing Friday night, Saturday night, so it was exciting to get back to the racetrack and see everybody, and so it was really cool. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And Friday night was kind of a freeze fest. It was a little chilly after the sun went down. I got home and I was so cold. I took a hot bath, and I don't think my feet ever got warm. I don't think they ever thawed out, to be honest. But it was pretty cool. So what's new and exciting at Wehrs Machine? Any new products we got to show?
Yeah, we're plugging away. We've been hard at work. We got some exciting new drop cups. You and I, we like playing with the spring table a lot. So
Oh yeah.
I think Colby unleashed these today to the world. So these are pretty cool. So our standard cup, we have two options now to go an inch farther down and an inch up. So you could potentially use this one on the left rear top and then this one on the right rear, and now be a 2-inch difference. So it's just another tuning feature when you're dealing with the screw jack style spring table to let you tune in between spring rates there by moving the spring table an inch.
Well, that's going to be a pretty neat deal because that way then you don't have to change, and you get to run your same 13-inch springs, and you get a true test. You don't have to worry about the spring not having the travel and everything. So that's going to be a good deal. I think that extra inch one, that's going to be pretty neat, especially when we get into the dry slick racetracks this summer and stuff. I think that's going to work really, really well.
And it brought the new case. After years of abuse from you and other people, I finally gave in and got the hard case. So load sticks now have the option for the hard case.
Oh, wow. A hard case for the load sticks. How exciting is that?
Dad Simpson even made a cool sticker for it. So yeah, we're rocking. So I guess we might as well have a hard case option. So those are now available too.
Well, I think that's a good deal. Well, so what's that case going to cost?
They'll be $75.
I mean, that's uh, a must-have and save on the investment of the load stick tool so that it doesn't get damaged and doesn't get thrown in somebody's toolbox or put someplace where, because it's a pretty precision piece of equipment to be bouncing around. So that'll be cool.
This was the quick option. That's obviously just a Harbor Freight case, and we just put our foam inside of there. So, I mean, if you have one of our cardboard boxes and you go get that case, I think there's 65 out of the store or something like that. But so they fit right in that Harbor Freight case, whether you buy it from us or if you go to Harbor Freight and get it. I know that we are looking for a different case that is less expensive because I'm always trying to save the racer money. So we got a couple different options that we're working on direct with some manufacturers that hopefully we can get the case price down a little bit, and then we might just throw it into the price of the stick. So if you buy a load stick, it would come in a hard case instead of a cardboard case is our end goal. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's they're available now. So
awesome. Cool. Well, Taylor Cool ran second at Boone the other night in her brand new car. First night on the car. She was pretty happy with everything. She made some changes between hot laps and heat race, and she started 10th in her heat race and ran second in the heat race in the new car. And then so that was pretty exciting. My boy Troy ended up winning both nights, Friday night and Saturday night, in the stock car. So that was exciting.
Weekend of doubles, wasn't it?
It was a weekend of doubles. The 4T Dub, he's pretty quick. He was quick all weekend. I mean, you could tell he's definitely been doing some racing, and he definitely has his act together. That car was pretty fast, no doubt about it. And then the 01 Carter, he looked really good too. I mean, he started good, but I mean, I still think he could have started in the back of the pack, and his car was just that awesome too. So he did a great job. So those guys, they definitely, you can tell the guys that did their homework over the winter, and then you can also tell the guys that didn't do their homework over the winter. Fuel filters is the topic for the evening. Don't go to the races with a fuel filter with fuel that's been left there all winter long and sucked in a fuel cell that had fuel left in it all winter long. And so the foam deteriorated, plugs up the fuel cell. Needless to say, and you can't count on the local store to have the exact fuel filter that you want. But BHE is going to start stocking fuel filters. We always have stock fuel filters, but so that was kind of the topic at the Boone Speedway the other night, was the fuel filter. One of the customers pulled his fuel filter out, and I hadn't seen that much stuff in the fuel filter in years. And he said it was kind of starting to cut out a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, I can see where that could be. Luckily they caught that before it damaged anything, because that's the thing. So it's the thing. We talk about all the preseason maintenance and everything, and you go to the racetrack and you watch people fixing stuff that it's like, why are you? I mean, I don't get it. But then you see the guys, like I said, like Carter and Ward and those guys that are just in Troy, that guys that are just on their freaking game, that they did their work over the winter and they got everything ready to go. So that's pretty cool. Question on the Wehrs pinion J-bar mount. I measured the zero line on the bracket, and it's about a 1/4 inch above center line of the drive shaft. Does that sound right?
Well, there's a little bit of tolerance there on the laser. I'm not sure who set it up that day. I guess I'm not 100% sure. The one with the zero on it should be close to center line, but like I said, that's, and everything's on an angle, I think, so it's tough to be exactly perfect, but it could have been just they got one notch off on that one. But just so you reference where you are and know where you're at, and if it is off by 1/4 of an inch, then just reference that in your notebook and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, Dylan says good job, Troy. Yeah, Troy did a heck of a job. I mean, I tell you what, Saturday night I really didn't think he had a prayer. He was starting back there quite a ways back, and gosh, before you knew it, he was in fifth, and all of a sudden it was like, he might just pull this deal off after all, and sure enough, he did. So that's exciting. He hasn't got the new car out yet, and of course, we kind of joked with him today that, well, a new car is going to be faster, so you gotta get that going here pretty soon, because that's got to be faster than the old car, no doubt.
Fresh iron.
And he kind of had to chuckle. He says, "Yeah, it should be." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it should be. We hope so." Frank, take my money, Chad. Another amazing product. We'll be ordering soon. There you go, Frank. Good job. Eric, big bulb shocks versus oil shocks. Opinions on each. Thank you, guys. The big bulb shock that is a base valve and the oil shock are going to react the same way. The difference is the big bulb shock has got some gas pressure on the other side of the base valve, to the point where it will be a little more consistent. The oil shock, excuse me, the oil shock can have a tendency in a long race to fade, especially where there's a lot of heat involved. Right rears, where the header's blowing back on it, they can just fade a little bit. They've got a lot smaller piston, so they're a great product, but they're not as good as the bulb shock that's a base valve. Now, you can still get a bulb shock that doesn't have the base valve in it, and that's basically the same thing as a monotube shock, where you've got to have 60 pounds of gas pressure or so like that. And that shock on a rough racetrack or a racetrack that's got some grip or whatever will definitely be better. The oil shock and the base valve shock, they shine when the racetrack gets slow and slick, because like they've only got, well, the gas bag shock is probably about 8 pounds of gas, and I think we run 15 pounds of gas in a standard base valve shock on the right and the right sides. CJ says hi. How much rear steer is too much? In my opinion, anything over 3 inches is too much. We run, I like to be in that 2 3/4 range. That seems to be a pretty good sweet spot. Maybe when it gets really dry slick, we go down to 2.5, but most generally we stay in that 2 3/4 to 3 inch mark. That seems to be pretty consistent. We've had good luck with those numbers. Steve is watching. Awesome. Brian, when the car is on the scales, should the front weights be close between the left front and the right front, or does it matter? Well, it kind of depends on the engine location, and it kind of depends on how much left side weight you have. A normal 54% left side weight with the engine centered is going to probably give you around 80 pounds heavier on the left front than the right front. I always used to try to get that closer together, but that seems to be kind of that 75-pound range seems to be pretty consistent, and it works pretty good. It's a situation where if you end up heavier, you might have to hang a chunk of weight on the right side a little bit higher in the car, not forward in the car, but like higher, kind of across from where the driver's knees would be on that upward angle bar on the right side cage. A small chunk of weight there just to get the car to initiate over in the right front, but that's not very common. We usually don't have to. If you were more than 100 pounds, I'd be nervous about it. I would be a little concerned about how it's going to get on the right front. Boy, today was another busy day for me. I actually ended up having to work a little harder today, and I wasn't going in there with that attitude involved. And I don't even think I was I even missed your post there on those weight jack cups. I wasn't even on the internet today.
Mondays are so cool. Like I get here at 6 o'clock and then all of a sudden it's 3 o'clock. And I'm like, I don't even know if I did anything.
Yeah, no doubt. Bob, you mentioned the last time the measurement for measuring anti-dive. How do you measure? Well, basically, I mean, you put some sort of a level on the cross shaft, or if you've got the standard the standard A-frame without the shaft, basically I just set like a piece of steel or something and level across the top of the heim joints, and then I always tilt my back ones down a little bit, whether it's about 1 degree on the left front or 1 degree on the right front, and or half a degree usually is what I actually go on the right front, and about 2 degrees on the left front. That way it makes the car a little tighter getting in. 4-link UMP modified pull bar, shock or no? Would you recommend for valving if you do? Well, CJ, that's kind of an open question, but I'll do my best to answer it. I always run an axle dampener shock, depending on what pull bar you have. If you've got a spring bar, you're going to probably want to run, like a 90-10, a 9 on compression, 1 or 2 on rebound, something like that. On a UMP car where you don't have a really big spoiler, sometimes we run a little bit more rebound in that shock just so that it kind of helps not shock the tires so much. We've been up as much as a 3 on rebound on those type of cars, or any type of car that has lots of motor and not much for tire or anything. Those work pretty good. If you're running a biscuit bar, probably something like a 5.1, 5.2 would probably be good. 6.1, 6.2 in there somewhere would probably be pretty good. Let's see here.
Back to that anodive, that's to the ground. Did you say measured to the ground?
Yes.
You did? Yeah.
Well, I didn't say that, but yes, you're right. Measure it to the ground. So you get the cars all set up, and then you measure that as the car's sitting there at ride height.
Yeah, because if the frame rail has a rake in it or whatever, that's going to be misleading. So,
right.
Yeah, add attitude or add ride height from the ground to the centers.
Right. Yep. Okay. Let's talk shock location. Will you notice the difference running the shock closer to the axle housing versus further away? The only thing that you're really going to notice the difference about is the reaction time, because when you get axle wrap, which you're going to get axle wrap, whether it's caused, even if you've got a solid upper link, you're going to get that because of the rear steer that we run in these cars nowadays. So the further away from the housing, the more it's going to try to control that, and the closer to the housing, it's going to, you're not going to notice as much. So will you notice the difference? I don't know. I mean, in theory you should, but I think it's such a minute difference that I don't know if you really would notice a lot on a standard shock absorber. Because you'd have to get a lot of, to notice the difference, you would have to get a lot of rear end wrap, because the rear end is going to go up and down, period. And if you're a couple inches away from the rear end, I don't think the rear end is going to know that, except for with axle wrap. Joey, what's a quick adjustment to make the car react quicker? Well, it's, that's just a whole package. The shock package that you have, the locations of everything. I don't know if I could actually say there would be a quick adjustment. And I don't know if you've got a 4-link car or a 2-link car. It's hard to really say what would react quicker. More angle in the left rear trailing arm is going to give you quicker reaction times. What's your suggestion, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question, kind of depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for motion or if you're just looking for, something fast for an adjustment. I mean, like you said, the bar angles the more bar angle, the quicker the reaction. You talked about putting a piece of lead on the right front to get that action. We do things with the spring table to get that action. J-bar angle makes fast action. So, it's kind of a loaded question, like where do you want to go and where do you want to stop? So it's about the balance. So it depends on if you need it in the front end also or the rear, if you're what phase of the corner. So, and generally I like to start on the front of the car in phase 1 and get the car into the corner first. So maybe you're looking for a quick motion with a chunk of lead up on that right front corner.
Ed, on a cruiser street stock, can you discuss squat versus anti-squat? Well, on those type of cars, I'm not sure I can actually answer that question, Ed. I'd have to actually think about that, and I don't. Have you got an answer there, Chad?
Well, I don't think they can adjust anything, right? So can you even change it?
No, I don't think you can change it.
Or is it like a like a Penn Ohio car where you can move them arms and get that to change the rear squat. I guess I'm not familiar enough with it, but
Most of the street stocks, everything's got to be left in original stock location. Like now they like our hobby stocks that we have out here in IMCA world. We can put a different rear end in there, so we can play a little bit with those rear end mounts, but you can't change anything on the frame whatsoever, and so it's all pretty much stock. What's your opinion on spring rubber on the right rear or right front? A spring rubber, depending on how you put the spring rubber in the spring. If you put it in the center of the spring, it's going to make the spring a progressive rated spring. If you trim the spring rubber down and put it all the way to the end, the closed end, then it just makes the spring actually feel stiffer, or it just gains rate. So up until the fact when they outlawed spring rubbers in IMCA competition, I played with spring rubbers all the time. I mean, I could take a 175 right rear and make it a 195 with a spring rubber in it. And so that was a pretty easy, quick adjustment, because I'm not really ambitious about working on these race cars. So that was a pretty easy deal. Slap that spring rubber in that thing and cable tie it in place. And when I was working with Moffitt in his dirt car, we did that a lot. And what was happening is people weren't securing them and fastening them in the car correctly, and so they were flying out and getting in the grandstand, and so it became a safety issue. So that's why they outlawed it. But if you can run spring rubbers, I think the spring rubber is good. It's just you gotta take a spring rubber, like I said, and what we did was we kind of trimmed it down, sort of wedged it up so that it went in the closed end of the spring, so that it didn't make it so progressive, because in the middle of the spring it's going to make it progressive.
yeah, definitely fun to play with if they're legal. I'd be using them all the time if you could. Yep. And with the load machines and the load sticks now, you can put it in there and really tweak on it and tune it.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that with the stuff that we can do with them now. Heck, I was just doing it with a spring raider back then.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Watching videos of the driver's hands, how far should he be turning the steering wheel on corner entry? Well, it kind of depends on the racetrack. It kind of depends on the driver. Some guys like their cars a little tight. I would say 20 degrees. I mean, the car really needs to go in, and you really need to kind of turn it to head it into the corner. And then once it gets into the corner and the car starts back steering on you, then of course you're going to counter steer it, of course, the opposite way. But I would say 20 degrees probably would be a pretty educated guess. I'll have to pay attention to that. I'll watch some videos and watch some of these guys. I've never really thought. That's a great question. I've not thought a lot about that. Chad, what are the chances of the clamp on the jack mount being made to fit 1 1/4 square tubing?
Well, I think we have 1 1/2 square that goes on a vertical, the 1 1/4 on a horizontal. We would just take 1 1/4 round and just mill it out to square just to do a one-off like that. We don't get a lot of requests for squares on a horizontal tube, but we could definitely do that, Chris, if you just give me a call or Billy a call tomorrow and just tell us that. It's going to be a custom order, so it'll take us a few days to get it run through the machine shop, but shouldn't be too big of a deal.
Cruiser Street Stock metric car. Can you discuss squat versus anti-squat? Which is better and when? It's kind of the same question, Ed, but I'm not really sure. I'm the right guy to answer that question, because I'm not that familiar with the anti-squat in those cars, so Sorry, I apologize. I don't think I can give you good information. What is a good leaf spring rate combo? Well, that's another one that I've been out of the leaf spring thing quite a while, and so boy, Kenny, I don't know if I can answer that question either. You guys are stumping me tonight. I'm going to have to go back into some of my old school stuff and look up some of this stuff because I'm not sure what a good leaf spring rate would be.
1998 was my last leaf spring car.
Yeah, and I don't, and I don't remember because I'm right there with you. I mean, that was about the time when, because we kind of went from leaf springs to the monoliths, and
Ben had some pretty good ideas there at the class. Somebody asked about it, right? And then Ben Baker from AFCO, because they got a bunch of drag race stuff they still do with its leaf.
okay.
So I'd give AFCO a call. They got that stuff in stock yet.
Yeah, I think you'd be better off. Yeah, give AFCO a call. Talk to one of the sales guys there. Chris, if you're at Marshalltown, throw it in hard, or you really get really tight. Speaking from experience. Well, Marshalltown, the way the Marshalltown racetrack is shaped, because it's kind of it's not a straight banking, it's kind of a curved banking. So, I mean, it ramps up the higher you get, the stiffer it is. So, Marshalltown is a very, very fast little racetrack, and you hit the corners very, very hard. So what can happen is if you get in there really hard and you get it on the right rear, the car can get kind of tight on you. But most generally, if as long as the car's, you got to run the car a little bit freer. Now with this 3-day show that they got coming up, the racetrack's going to deteriorate, so it's going to get slick. And when it gets slick, I know, like on the modifieds, we end up having to put more J-bar in the car to keep the car tight because you are going so fast. So I don't know if I would say throwing it in hard, but definitely throwing it in and letting the car rotate real well works pretty good, because a lot of times if you throw it in hard, you're going to get free coming off. And you might be a little snug in the middle, and you definitely that racetrack, you do not want to be snug in the middle. The car would be better off to be a little freer, being able to drive up off the corner straight, because if you go to Google Maps and pull that racetrack up and look at an aerial view of that racetrack, you'll see how, especially coming out of turn 4, it kind of tightens up there. And that's where a lot of times you'll notice the fast way out of turn 4 is up on the high side. The biggest thing is you got to depend on the guy underneath you not changing lanes on you, because otherwise you'll end up in the fence, and then that wall comes up really fast. So speaking from experience, I can understand. Chad, do you make a clamp on chassis tabs? Clamp on chassis tabs. Maybe ones can put body bolt kits in, bolt clips in.
So yeah, we make all kinds of accessory clamps, 3 different styles. So if you go to the website and type in clamps or accessory clamps, it'll pull up all the whole family, from 1-inch tubes to 1 3/4-inch tubes. We make one that's pretty stout, like a weight clamp, but takes a 1/4 20, and then we make one that's kind of a lightweight, we call it, which takes a 1/4 20 2 ways, and then we make our super light one, which takes just a 1/4-inch bolt hole. So lots of different options there for chassis tabs, for clamping straps or struts too, or whatever. So just go to the site and search the accessory clamps up.
Brian wants to know, Chad, do you offer anything to hold the extra part of the shoulder belt when you wrap it around the bars?
So the accessory clamps I was just talking about, them will hold the belts, left to right in the car. We did make a special clamp, a special bracket for hooker to keep their stuff lined up, hooker harness. But I seen the thing where you wrap up all the extra strap. The whatever company that is spending a lot of money on Facebook ads, and that thing's pretty cool and trick or whatever. But to me, I don't really know why we'd want 3 extra feet of seatbelt rolled up behind me. I mean, if you have an adult driving the car and you got the belt set for that adult, even if you got a bigger dude in the car, you'd need maybe an adjustment of a foot. So I wouldn't leave anything past that to wrap up in another clamp back there. I seen that. I've had people asking me about it, but to me, it's kind of a gimmick that's completely unnecessary. I'd use the accessory clamps to keep the belts from spreading on the tube, and then I would trim off the excess.
Brad wants to know the best way to get more forward on corner exit. Northern Sport Mod, 53 rear, 52.8 left side. Been trying to get more rear, and my left front's very heavy compared to my right front, and my right rear is 123 pounds heavier than my left rear. Well, you've got the car all out of balance there. Your percentages definitely need to get the rear percentage up to around 56%. The left side weight, I don't know if that's with or without driver. If that's without driver, that's probably pretty good. We run 54% with a 200-pound driver. The other thing, and what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to, on the scales, when you set it on the scales, you're going to have to like put a turn in the right front, take a turn out of the right rear, put a turn in the left rear, and take a turn. You have to work the car in an X fashion. So what you've got to do is you've got to load the right front and the left rear and unload the left front and the right rear. But you've got to do it evenly. So in other words, take one turn out of the right rear, one turn out of the left front, put one turn in the right front, and one turn in the left rear, and keep working in that sequence. And you'll find that you can actually work your ride heights to the point where the ride heights will still stay the same, but you're transferring weight from spring to spring. And because you need to get that thing to the point where you've got about 60, 75, 80, between 60 and 80 pounds of left rear bite. And when you do that, your front weights are going to come, you're probably still going to be 100 pounds. With the fact you're already 250, you're probably still going to be there. But if you work it in that manner, it'll definitely work itself out. It's going to take a full night to do that. I mean, you're going to have to be patient and work it a little at a time, but you can get it out of it, and the car will be tremendously better. Doug's got a 2017 GRT. Turns in good, but gets tight through the middle, especially on the gas. Tends to carry the left front tire and lays on the right rear and lost forward drive. Any suggestions? Sounds like you've got too much J-bar in the car or too much J-bar angle. I would be willing to bet that the rear end's too far to the left. I would probably move the rear end a quarter of an inch to the right. Anytime you have that condition that you're talking about, it's the fact that the car is getting on the right rear so hard that it's getting so much side bite that the car's stuck so hard on the right rear. Well, then once it finally breaks loose, then the car just jumps out from underneath you and it gets snappy loose, and there's absolutely no traction left to go forward. So I would look at that. What I always do is like on our GRTs, I string line my left side tires. I make sure my left side tires are in line, running a 2-inch offset or a 3-inch with a wheel spacer on both left sides, and string line the left side tires. And then if that problem, and then like for a heat race, I'd stick a 1/2-inch spacer on my right rear tire, move that right rear tire out. And I think that's going to fix that problem quite a bit. Bruce, measuring anti-dive from the ground to the center line of the Heim, how much difference is the height should be front to rear? Well, I can't actually tell you the height because, like I said, what I actually do is I put like a piece of inch square tubing, or not half, 3/4 square tubing or whatever, on the top of the Heims, and then I use an angle finder. And when I'm plugging of course, with our stuff, we've got different spacers that we can put in. We go anywhere from an eighth to a half, so we can change it quite a bit. But that's what I would go with. I'd get my car to the point where it's at ride height, and then measure it with an angle finder is what I've found to be the best. Well, we've got some time for some more questions. Going anywhere this weekend, Chad?
Turkey season.
Oh, that's right. It is turkey season.
I'm pro staff for Trick Outdoors now, our new outdoor brands that we're launching here.
I see.
Yeah, so excited to kick that off. I start Friday in Iowa. I'm so addicted. I bought an Iowa out-of-state license and gonna go down and hunt in the Castalia area by the Budenberg family was nice enough to let me hunt on their land. So we're gonna go and explore that and try and get some cool footage for the new Trick Outdoors brand that we've launched. We've made a game noose and a deer drag and a camera stick and some other things, and we're working on some towers to put boxes in the air. So just another little off brand that we've been doing in our spare time. You know, me and the boys, we really like hunting, and a lot of racers are hunters, so it kind of fits. And there's most of the stuff in the hunting industry isn't real trick, if you will, like race parts are. So, and a lot of it is just Chinese junk. So we're trying to give people a better option for some different trick stuff. So hence the name trickoutdoors.com.
Awesome. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be real cool. Well, Marshalltown's got their big stock car special. They have practice on Wednesday night, and then they race Thursday and Friday. And big 5,000 to win stock car race. And then they're running modifieds. And I think they're running full classes, if I'm not mistaken. I know the modifieds, and I'm pretty sure the sport mods are going to be there too. So we've already got a list of things that we want to do some testing with McBurney's car on Wednesday night. So I'll get to go to the racetrack 3 nights this week. Went fishing last week on Friday. Took Friday afternoon, or took the whole day Friday off. Went fishing. That was fun. I always enjoy that fishing thing. It's frustrating because I'm not the greatest fisherman, but I still have a good time. My son-in-law always makes it a lot of fun. Okay, John, too much side bite. Should I shorten my left front chain? Yes. If you've got too much right rear side bite, shortening the left rear chain will take some side bite out of it. Now, keep in mind, when you shorten that, it's going to give you traction on the left rear. So you might take side bite out of it, but be aware of the fact that you're going to gain some traction, so it might tighten the car up on the throttle. It'll free the car up right initially on corner entry, but the second you get on the throttle, it might tighten the car up a little bit. So just be aware to make, if that's the case, be ready to make some changes to free the thing up. But yeah, you're right. Shortening the left front chain is definitely the thing to do there. Kip, you should add a schedule option as a tab on the app. That way you could log your race schedule right in the app with your maintenance. I talked to a couple guys at the racetrack this weekend that had those apps, and they love them. It's great. You know, they got a lot of their information in there, and it's pretty cool. One guy showed me a nice deal. He just loaded it up and pulled up, and rear end, side to side measurements. He had all that stuff in there, so it was pretty cool.
Kip, I made a note. I will talk to the cool people that are smarter than me that can make changes to the app. But a schedule wouldn't be a bad option, I don't think. No.
No, that would probably be fairly easy to add. Well, I mean, all that stuff's easy for me.
Yeah, we're working on moving that thing to a different platform to make it easier to purchase. Obviously, we have it right now where you have to go to our website, circletrackapp.com, and buy it, and you get a key, and then you go back to the app in your Play Store and put the key in. So it's a little bit cumbersome. We did that to try and get away from Apple's and Android's fees and whatnot, and I guess we just gave in, and it's kind of difficult at times to go back and forth. So we're working on that where when you download it, you'll pay for it instantly. And then this other platform that we're developing on gives us options to do more cool stuff, like probably a calendar of some sort in there with a schedule, and then the live weather app stuff. And so, like we said when we first came out with that app, it's going to be a constant evolution of guys like you that are like, hey, I want this, or hey, I want that. And that's kind of how I got to 58 pages already. So
Yeah.
I've been criticized for having way too much stuff in there, and you know, we just keep adding stuff. So again, it's about how much of it you want to use. You know, I mean, it's honestly, it's worth the $100 just to get the tuning side of it, to have that thing to always think about, like, I'm loose in, and you sometimes you get frustrated at the track and it's the heat of the moment, and you just need to see something like, here's a change, think about this, and then play that through your head that night, and just to have, you know, something to look at, and something that, you know, you don't have to run down and ask your competition. He's going to maybe not tell you the right thing. And the whole staying in your own app or your own notebook thing, you know, it has some merit to it also. So that thing's been a lot of fun, you know, like you said, people using it, and it's just going to be an evolution from here on out to add different features to it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's endless. I mean, the thing's endless in what you can do with it now. I mean, it's just, let alone when you add some more features to it. So it's a pretty cool deal. Anything else new and exciting at Wehrs Machine?
Man, the evolution and the innovation never stops here. We got a great team of people. The idea board's full. We're screaming at Billy for designs, and you know, it's a lot of fun, and you know, it's everything's changing. There's different things that people are working on, and we keep evolving, and it's because of the racers and the ideas, and it's kind of who we are and what we do, right?
Yes.
We're always trying to go fast. We're always trying to win races, and it's just a blast and an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's just, you know, it's kind of what Bobby and I talked quite a bit about today, and some customers that, you know, we think there's some things that they maybe need to look at, possibly adding to their program, because like I said, you could definitely tell the group that worked on their stuff real hard over the winter, and the guys that kind of put a new body on. And it's, I mean, you could be fast last year, but I mean, that evolution is changing all the time, and if you don't keep up with it, holy moly. Sean wants to know if it's worth checking bump steer with the wheels pointed to the right or to the left instead of straight. Well, the problem is that's all going to change. You still have to have a common format, or a common way to measure it. And so we've always done it with it being straight, because I'm just afraid that we might get too much information to the point where it might confuse the whole situation. And I'm not saying that's information that would be good to know, but I would still do everything with everything straight ahead, because you'll find that, I mean, the spindles that we run, you know, there's going to be a little bit more toe out when you turn to the right. There's going to be a scrub factor there. So I think it's definitely something that, you know, if you're asking that question, it's worth doing, just so you kind of know more about your race car. Live weather on the CTA would be awesome.
Stay tuned.
John wants to know, right rear is hot, left rear is cold, lacking corner speed. Well, that tells me that the left rear is actually tractioning up and the right rear is not tractioning up, because if the right rear is hotter, you're either sliding the right rear or spinning the right rear. So that would lead me to believe the car is probably a little too free. And so that's going to, in too free a car, you're going to be chasing it and waiting on it and waiting on it and waiting on it, especially getting, coming up off the corner. So in my opinion, I think you need to get the right rear hooked up a little bit more, tighten the car up a little bit, would be my, without knowing all the other facts that would go into that question. Just off of that question, the way you're talking there, that would be lacking corner speed is definitely, that's with right rear running warm, that car's free or loose. So how many days you're going to hunt all weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Well, we start Friday and see
All
how it
depends
goes.
on when you get your turkey.
Yeah, and boy, it'd be nice to punch out quick because it's also the youth season here. So the boys are hunting in Wisconsin, and I'm out in Iowa hunting. So kind of poor timing on my part there.
I see.
But maybe I'll get lucky.
There you go. Yeah, one of my fishing buddies, he went hunting Friday, and I think he was done by noon. Now, I don't know nothing about hunting, so I didn't ask all the details, or didn't. I wouldn't know what details to ask, to be honest. I have no clue. But I know a lot of people do that. I mean, it's my son-in-law. He's not a turkey hunter, but he's definitely a duck and goose guy.
Yeah.
And he'll go out there and sit in that cold, freezing freaking weather, and I'm just like, man, you got to be freaking nuts. I like sports that are warm weather sports because, like I said, Friday night I was kind of thinking that, I don't think we're ready for racing because it's too cold. But Saturday night was nice. And, of course, they started early Saturday, so we got done early, which made a big difference. I think we were done by 10 o'clock, or, I think it was 12:30 on Friday night. So that made a big difference in weather temperature.
When's the Beatrice race?
What?
When is the Beatrice race?
I don't think they're going to run it.
Oh, they're not?
I don't think so. They temporarily canceled it, and I haven't heard anything about. I haven't heard anything about what they were talking. Brian wants to know, what is the app you guys are talking about?
So it's an app that we developed here called Circle Track app. So basically, if you go to the Play Store and search up Circle Track app, or go to circletrackapp.com, it'll give you all the details on how to use that. And it gives race day notes, a setup book, trackside tuning, team management, all your measurements, all your data that you need to put in there, a maintenance schedule, just a unbelievable amount of input and data that you can put into there.
Oh yeah, Justin put it up there.
There's a link there, yeah. Yep. Thanks, Justin.
Oh, it says the Beatrice race is the 21st.
21st.
Awesome.
Next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend. Well, that'll be cool.
Is Boone off now?
No, they start
going every week now?
Yep, they start their weekly program on next week. I think Marshalltown, their weekly stuff starts a week later, but Boone, I'm pretty pretty sure Boone. Yeah, I know. I know the promoter too well. He wouldn't take a week off. Okay, right front lazy to get down on with soft spring. Take turns out helps. Other ideas to help this without taking turns out. I'd probably consider putting some turns in my left rear and raising my left rear up. Also, wouldn't be a bad idea if you're having trouble getting on the right front to raise the left side ride heights a little bit. Just get more inertia. Once again, a 15-pound chunk of weight there, not necessarily right over the right front corner of the car, but back basically in the front side of the main cage on the right side works really well. We've had that depending on the situation. That would be some things. What any ideas you have, Chad?
Well, if it's lazy with the soft spring in there, that's kind of a almost, to me, almost sounds unbalanced, but kind of like a weight issue, like you said, with that chunk of lead. But could also be the spring table, spring cup, could be need a drop cup in there or something like that. But I remember when I first came to your school, when you first asked me to be a part of it, and you talked about the weight and how an improperly balanced car will make it not work. And I think you used the word lazy, and that's the first thing that I come to mind is like something's got to be wrong with the balance of the car weight wise to make it lazy. If it's not falling on a soft spring, then something to me screams imbalance.
Yeah, something's going on. There could be a bind someplace.
Lead's too low.
The lead's more than likely lead's too low. You got the lead on the left, too much lead on the left rear corner of the car will definitely make that right front feel lazy. Get the car more balanced, split the lead around. If you've got a lot of lead on the left side, move it more to the center. Definitely that would help. Justin says mud plug and cover on the wheel even in the summer, or does that hold too much heat? Arizona here. No, what that does is that keeps tire heat in the car, and in my opinion, even in Arizona, I don't know. Maybe it'd be too hot down there, but I don't think so. I run the mud plug or the cover all the time. I just think Zane front roll centers. Yeah, Zane, you're right there. That's definitely something that could be, could be a situation where some ball joint changes might help that problem. Because we've done some ball joint changes on some of our stuff here as of late, just because the car gets in the right front too much.
It's a very possible bind too. I mean, you could have something bound up so much it won't let the car travel.
Yeah, I mean that lower control arm could be bound up. I mean, it's very possible that something could be bound. But anyway, Justin, back to your question. I'd run them all the time. I think it's a consistency factor. Because even if it's hot down there, I mean, I don't see that being an issue, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of car that is, but Jeff, you probably want to take the springs out and put that baby through some motions and see if you got something bound up there for sure. Maintenance, we preach it all the time, but man, it is the key. And it's easy. You bump wheels, bump a inner tire. It doesn't take much to screw up these parts, and then you're chasing it, and it sounds kind of like you're chasing it.
And it could be, not enough chain, not enough drop on the left rear. Left rear drop. If I remember when we started getting these cars over in the right front, a lot of people the problem is the shock mount wasn't in the right location. We needed more shaft on the left rear to get the car to roll over. It was rolling over far enough that it was actually topping out the shock absorber. And in fact, there's a particular brand of car that had that problem, and they were always busting pistons on that left rear or blowing the nut off that shaft. And it was just a situation. And finally, when we got to run chains, that just helped that problem. But now we've got most cars have an adjustable left rear shock, so we can adjust that accordingly. Jeffrey said, worked all right with a 550. Lighter spring has higher frame heights.
Yeah, that's like what we talked about a couple weeks ago, that you think you need a lighter spring. However, when you change that ride height and get that roll center up there, it's not going to get the motion. So
right.
The only way that light spring works is if you can chain it or top it out with a shock to control that ride height. Because when you change your roll center, you're not going to roll over. So there's your answer. If you can't chain that and control that with a shock, that ride height, I don't feel there's an advantage.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. Sounds to me like Jeffrey, are you load sticking that car to the point where you maybe need to do that differently or whatever? Because if you're putting that soft spring in and raising the ride height, that doesn't completely make sense to me. Well, these guys had some good questions tonight. Good group of people.
Load stick, yeah.
Load stick. Yep.
That's how much did you take out from a 550?
I went to a 550. Didn't say what his soft was. I thought he said a 450, but maybe, I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, when you're working on that load stick and you're about that down number, when you put a softer spring in there to maintain that down number, you're going to have a high ride height, right?
Yep.
So that's going to be the problem. And back a few years ago, when we can control that with a shock, them setups were
they were awesome.
They're lights out, but
yeah, they were bad to the bone. Yeah, he had a 450.
450.
Yeah, bad to the bone.
Yeah.
Now we can't necessarily control that with the shock, so we can't clamp that thing down.
But if you go from the 550 to the 450 and you want your ride height number the same, your ride height number won't change, right? But you'll have less down number.
You'll have less down number.
So if you're load sticking your down number with the 550 and then you're putting the 450 in and you're going on your compressed number and tuning that's why your ride height's high. If you ride height it on your scaled number with a 550 and you ride height number with the 450, theoretically your ride height will be the same, but you're going to have less total load number. So Correct. It's going to have, that's going to be the effect you're looking for when you go to that from a 550 to a 450 is a softer rate to induce the roll and get the motion. But if you're trying to maintain your max number with a softer spring, you're going to have a higher ride height number.
Yeah. And that's going to cause the problem that it's going to make it feel, because with it being high, it's going to feel lazy because the roll center is all whacked up.
Yeah.
Yep, no doubt.
2 weeks, is that the next one?
2 weeks. Let's see, today's the 10th, so it'll be the 24th. We'll have the Marshalltown High Banks in the books. We'll have another week at Boone. Yeah, the weather doesn't look super duper spiffy for this weekend though here.
It looks rainy.
Yeah, it looks rainy too. So, yep. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate everybody tuning in again tonight, and we had a good time, or I had a good time, and look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thanks everybody.